Hello, and welcome to Greek the Week, a program that is dedicated to living in the now and to also experiencing everything in life with gratitude and to following up on self-evaluation to see what lessons we learned from the things that we've gone through. I am Mona Duncan. I am a speaker and a personal success life coach. And this little program is looking at helping all of improving our relationships in all areas, to providing acceptance and an atmosphere in which we can learn and grow, to stimulate growth and positive change. Today's topic is on handling social pressures, and that can happen with anyone, that we can just have pressure put on us by the people that we are around.
Excuse me, handling social what? Handling social what?
Pressure.
Pressure, thank you.
Social pressure, handling social pressure. So as we go along, I would like you to get a piece of paper and a pencil so that you can write some things down. And I have several questions to start off with, but in your answering the questions is we're going to be looking at either we're going to be looking at how much you agree, whether it is I agree or I strongly agree. Okay. So our guest coming in now is settling in. Alice and Sue, good to see you, have you here. And what I encourage you to do is get a piece of paper and a pencil. But then as I ask these questions, which I'll go ahead and share my screen. And put it on. Slideshow from the very beginning. I don't know if this computer is going to cooperate or not. It didn't earlier, and I had to. Okay, there it is. Here we go. So, handling social pressure and looking at the various ways to do that. What I'm asking you to do is get a piece of paper and a pencil so that later on you can write down some things about yourself as we take a little quiz. And then now we're going to be looking at some questions I would like you to answer by either raising your hand if you agree or raising your hand when I say, do you disagree? So point number one is looking at the fact that we as individuals all seek identity, position, purpose, significance, and validation. Do you agree with that? If you agree, I'd appreciate if you'd raise your hand. Or do you disagree? If you'd raise your hand on that. Here's another thing to think about. As you change, your peers change. The way you see them, the way you interact with them, the ones that you stay close to, as you change, your peers change. Do you agree with that? Or do you disagree with that? Buzz Aldrin said, show me your friends and I will show you your future. Because the people we hang around with rub off on us, and that's for positive or for negative. So whenever that social pressure is there, begin to look at how is it changing you, and is it for the good or for the not so good? So here's another question. Life happens more, or thought, It's not really a question, it's a thought. Life happens more through you than it does to you. Do you agree or do you disagree? Carolyn Hack says, it does not take courage to do what tempts you. It takes courage to do what scares you. And having worked with the criminal society for many years, I always would bring this out. It doesn't take courage to do what tempts you. If something is tempting for us, we're ready to give into it. But it does take courage to do what scares you. And it's those things that scare us. So I'm asking the question or making the comment that you are driven to prove who you are. Dr. Glasser says that all behavior is purposeful. So do you agree that we are driven to prove who we are? Or do you disagree? Brian Johnson says, our worst enemy is often inside our own heads and pushes us to discover how far we can go. And then again, as almost everything in life is within the middle spectrum, but we can push it to either be a negative or to be a positive. And so it's inside of us. And it goes back to the fact that life works more through us than it does to us. As it begins to, you know, what are we willing to become? And you are dissuaded, we are dissuaded by rules and laws. We have this need for freedom. Don't tell me what to do. And so we want to do things our own way. And so do you agree that you are dissuaded, push against rules and laws? Or do you agree that you follow rules and laws? And maybe is it to an extent, does it kind of depend on what rule or what law it is, or what mood you're in? Well, Carl Jung says, to confront a person with his own shadow is to show him his own light. As we begin to look at the things we are afraid of, at the things that show up in inappropriate times, and we wonder, where did that come from? The more we can become comfortable with who we are, the dark side of us, the more we can begin to expose ourselves to the light side of us and know who we are. So here's where I need you to get out your pencil and paper, because this was a little quiz on confronting our own shadow. That was the 5 questions were by Debbie Ford. Question number 1, and I'd like you to write it down. Question number 1, what do you consider to be your best quality? Your best quality. Don't be shy. Don't try to tamper it down. But what do you consider to be your best quality? And so I will go along with this. I consider my best quality to be insight, the ability that I can kind of see beyond what is, the ability that I have an intuitiveness, that I can read people. Well, the second question is, how is this quality displayed? How can other people see your best quality in you? How do you display that? Well, with me, I think that I display my best quality of insight and reading people and being intuitive by teaching and counseling and writing and lecturing and blogging. Question number 3. What is the opposite of your best quality? What is the dark side of your best quality? Well, the dark side of my best quality is bossiness, know-it-all. arrogance. And again, be honest with yourself. What is the opposite of your best quality? Question number 4. How do you feel about those who display your opposite quality? How do you interact with those who are just the shadow side of you and your bright, sunny light side? How do you interact with them? I know personally, in getting honest, I find myself judging them, disliking them, wanting to correct them. Question number 5. Where, how, and in whom do you witness these negative qualities? And here's where you name names. You don't have to say it out loud, but at least know who it is. Sometimes it may be a family member. I'm not going to name names out loud, but I can tell you that the names I could name are kin to me. And I can also tell you that the names I would name have been co-workers and or supervisors. So it's confronting our own shadow and seeing how we see things from our perspective. So I want to look at some life factors. Our life factors, is it nature or is it nurture? Well, I suggest it's all of the above. And under the nature part, it has to do with the DNA that came together to make us who we are. And it was from 10, 12, 20 generations back that the paternal and the maternal kept coming together until finally it became you or me, Mona Duncan. It became who we are. And part of that nature part gave us our appearance. At the moment of conception, it was preconceived what color our eyes would be, what our skin color would be, how tall we would grow to become. All of those things were pre-programmed in the nature part. Our temperament, what we would like and dislike, what our talents were, whether or not we would acclimate easily to different things. All of that was part of our temperament. And of course, our basic needs. The basic need, a need is not a want, it's a need. It's something you absolutely have to have. And Dr. William Glasser defined 5 of those basic needs that is internally within each of us naturally. The need to survive, to love and belong, to be powerful or to have some power, to be free, make our own decisions, and to have fun. And then under nurturing, because from the day we are born, someone has to do everything for us, everything. They have to feed us, they have to bathe us, they have to clothe us, they have to carry us around. And that is part of the nurturing. And with those people that we are around, whether it is family or friends or whomever, that, during that nurturing period, while we're growing and seeing what life is all about, we begin to develop our attitudes, how we behave, and our values. Some other life factors. And here in developing that, the body craves what we continually feed it. Whatever we continually feed our body, it craves. Whether that is foods, whether that is entertainment, whether that is immorality, whether that is crime, whether that is negatives, whatever we continually feed our body, it begins to crave. So other life factors is genetics. That again, it goes back to our parenting, but not only our parenting, it's all of the parenting of our parents and grandparents, all of our ancestors coming together. Our environment, not only in what we were reared in as a child, but also in what we continue to stay in, outside influences, neighbors, and events, the things that happen in our life, whether they are pleasurable or whether they are painful. We also look at the fact of our intellect. Now, it is with our intellect, our mind, that we reason, consider, weigh, and measure and understand the issues of life. It is with our emotions that we feel the issues of life. And the list of the different emotions we can feel is just a long list, whether it's joy or sorrow or pride or shame. And it is with our will. And we all have a free will. We all have the need to have freedom. We also have the will to make our own decisions. And it is with our will that we decide the issues of life. Yes, I will do that. No, I will not do that. And whether we can state it so firmly and yet kindly or not has to do with our amount of assertiveness or aggression or passivity. So we also, why factor is looking at the strength of our will. How strong is our will? Well, as with everything, I see it as a continuum. But the strength of the will. Are we willful or willing? But sometimes that willing can go to extreme and become wimpy, and go even to a more extreme that it is coerced. Well, I'll do it, but it's by force. And the willful can be, there's with everything, there is the dark side and the light side. And that willful can be determined, don't dissuade me, or it can get all the way over to being very stubborn. And I suggest to you that in each of these areas, there is a willing that's light and there's a willing that's dark. The willing that is in the dark side conforms. I'm doing this, but it's because I have to. It is weak-willed. It is averse, and it's usually pretty ineffective. The willingly on the light side is agreeable, not to do everything, but to do their part, is cooperative, is prepared, and is helpful. Well, the willful that is dark turns out to be the rebel. Sometimes a rebel without a cause, just rebelling against everything. Is fueled by anger. It rejects legal authority, and it seeks peer approval because it's just me and my bunch. What's good for me and my, but not you and yours. Whereas the willful light, or the light embraced willful person, and there's a lot of those, but for one very good example is Martin Luther King and Gandhi and many more that we could add to it. And these are people that they challenge authority, not belligerently, although some people may label them that. They are fueled by compassion because their ultimate desire is to effect social change in a way that is good for the whole. And also the willful with the light side is looking for positive change. It's seeking justice. Carl Jung again said, we all long for wholeness, while at the same time we hold on to our brokenness. Why do we do that? Because you know what, if I ace the test, which I could if I studied, if I ace the test, you'll probably expect me to do it again. If I come to work all the time and I'm prepared and ready and do a really good job, well, you'd probably expect me to keep on doing that. So sometimes we hold on to our brokenness. So here are some riddles of life. Epigenetics. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? Or reality? Which came first, choices or reality? Which came first, perception or actuality? Which came first, theory or theorem? Well, a while back, there was a 13, which has been a long time back, there was a 13-year human genome project. And it was like a light switch. It was discovered that like a light switch, our genes, we have this epigene that is the gene above the gene. It's the gene that protects the soft, mushy gene that created us who we are. It's the gene that has a willfulness to it. And like a light switch, our genes, our cells can be turned on or turned off at will, depending on what we believe. Sure, I'll have a donut. No thanks, I'll pass on the donuts. And what we continually feed ourselves, our body begins to crave. So if we continually eat those donuts, and I'm not saying don't ever have a donut, do not misunderstand me. I'm saying that if we eat those donuts and those things that are not good for us, what does it do to our body? What does it do to our mentality? What does it do to? And so James Cleary, in his book Atomic Habits, said, you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fail to the level of your systems. And those systems, if we were to go back on our PowerPoint, we would be looking at those life factors, those genetics, those environments, not those outside influences, those continual experiences. And it's not that we go back and tear them apart, but we begin to look at, because all of these factors not only have been from the day we were born, but they continue every day through the rest of our life. And if we want to rise above, we need to have different thoughts and actions and all kinds of things. So choice theory, which was founded by Dr. William Glasser. And I put in here, consciously or unconsciously, we choose what we believe. And I put my name after that because that's my philosophy. We choose what we believe. Oh, I will believe that. I will not believe that. And sometimes we can be so stubborn that, I'm not willing to listen or see or hear anything else. Because what I believe is what I believe. But you know what? I want to live in the mystery. And anything I do believe, I want to see if it really is solid and grounded and worth building on, or if it's not, I don't want anything to do with it. And Dr. Glasser, consciously or unconsciously, we choose how we behave. We are choosing whether we are being off-putting or welcoming. And so, aware or unaware, we choose our beliefs and our behavior. And having a free will choice, what do you choose? And having a free will choice, how do you feel? And having a free will choice, what are your thoughts? Having a free will choice, who are you becoming mentally, physically, morally, and relationally? So I'll go back up to our Carolyn Hacks. It doesn't take courage to do what tempts you. It takes courage to do what scares you. And I went ahead and put these questions in. They may or may not apply to you that are watching now and later. But this is some of the questions that I would ask to the prisoners that I was working with. Are you courageous enough to not follow the crowd, especially the one that's leading you down an ineffective path? Are you courageous enough not to be a sheep, as in following all of those things that are not that effective? Or to be a commander of sheep, that everybody has to follow you? Are you courageous enough to use real words to express yourself rather than impotent profanity? Are you courageous enough to be a dad, a real dad, that honors and respects motherhood more than and over a baby mama, as well as each child and their uniqueness? Are you courageous enough to ask for help? Are you courageous enough to receive help? Are you courageous enough to look beyond here to see what is becoming? Are you courageous enough to forgive yourself, to forgive others? Or forgiveness, that may be a little too strong. Are you courageous enough to move past and to see things differently? And are you courageous enough to know that you are a person of infinite worth and value and live like one and be one? So we're going to close up here, but in the meantime, I want to share with you a poem I've written entitled If only, if only, if only. If is a word in the middle of life, L-I-F-E, life, all those ifs. If is a word in the middle of life that can burden the soul and render much strife. When thinking back on your yesterdays causes your mind to become ablaze, wondering what if and if only I'd, and from the outcome you want to hide. For hindsight is better than foresight, they say, and many a folk comes to rue the day. But, in light of the information as you understood, you made a decision you thought was good. But sometimes those decisions we thought was good turn out to not be so good. But we have a free will, we have that we can weigh and measure, we have that intellect that we can weigh and measure, kind of a way of self-evaluating. Think you can do it? Well, I think you can. So have a good day and good mental health.